Hi, this is Lindsay, and welcome to Lindsay Loves Horror. I love watching a horror movie for the first time, especially when I wasn't sure about it to begin with. It's a great feeling when I sleep on a film only to finally get around to it and really enjoy it. If something doesn't appeal to me now, it may appeal to me in a few years, which is what I've learned from these movies that surprise me when watching them for the first time. I find that I enjoy movies more if I don't watch them for the sake of it. I just wait till I want to watch it. It feels less forced that way and I'm more likely to enjoy it. The first time I watched Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, I didn't really want to watch it. It was my other half and his brother that wanted to watch it, and I didn't like it. When I eventually went back for a rewatch, it's now my third favourite movie of all time, so what does that tell you? So here are 10 horror movies that surprised me in a good way. Just be aware there could be spoilers, feel free to skip those if you haven't seen them yet. Honestly, I won't get upset. This wasn't just your run-of-the-mill home invasion movie, and Erin isn't your generic final girl, which quite frankly is a long time coming. I appreciate outside of the box thinking. The family dynamics just worked with a sense of reality and relatability, rather than that manufactured feeling some movies give us. I believe that this could be a real family. Watching Erin take charge from the start instead of having to clumsily make her way to the end through sheer dumb luck is such a nice change that shows that women can survive a horror movie on their own merit, especially given that her boyfriend kind of pieces out halfway through because he's involved. He's the bad guy, or one of the bad guys. Either way, Erin is an awesome final girl. I don't think I really had an opinion about this when it came out. It's one of those films I watched because I kept seeing it on YouTube. I had no regrets. It perfectly balances the horrifying concept of being hunted by people you thought you could trust, with dark comedy that highlights each character's individual personalities and how they cope with what they think they must do to survive. Grace is definitely one of horror's more likeable protagonists, as well as being somewhat competent, yet completely realistic. The biggest surprise for me was the ending and the fact that they had the balls to follow through with it. Let's face it, it couldn't have ended any other way. This movie has officially entered my top 10 horrors of the 2010s, as well as my top 50 of all time. I had this recommended to me by a friend a few years ago, and the series was only on its first season. I fell in love with it straight away. It's the first New Zealand based horror movie I'd seen, and I know there are a few, some of which are directed by Peter Jackson. Bad Taste was my favourite out of the two that I watched last year, the other being Dead Alive. The mockumentary style, the individual personalities of each character, the use of vampire lore, and even the opening titles are big reasons why I love this movie. The writing is phenomenal, and the movie as a whole is sort of offbeat with a feeling of originality. For a while I was unsure about the series since it didn't feature the original cast and moved the location to New York, but then eventually after 2 seasons I decided to give it a try since it was on Disney+. I loved it just as much. It has the same feel and writing style as well as the same opening song, which I just can't bring myself to skip. I love the new characters, especially Nadja and Guillermo, and the cameos are awesome. The original 3 make appearances as members of the Vampiric Council, as well as other actors who had previously played vampires in movies and TV. Just wait till you get to Mark Hamill as Jim the Vampire. I also love that they avoid using CG as much as possible, opting instead to use camera effects like they did in the early years of cinema. I'm sad that the series ended this year, 2025 if you're from the future, but to me 6 seasons is a perfect amount, so although I'm sad to see it go, any longer may have ruined it. When I first saw the trailer, I didn't think it was going to be for me. It seemed like it would feature that modern comedy style that I don't really like, which I can't fully explain, but it just doesn't sit well with me. It was a totally different experience when I actually sat down and watched it. It was an interesting new take on the slasher genre, and we all know that Tree is the absolute highlight of the movie. Incidentally, I also enjoyed its sequel, which took a different approach while remaining faithful to its predecessor. The original 1989 adaptation of the Stephen King novel was never a masterpiece, but it was a nice piece of 80s camp. So when a modern adaptation was announced, I was, along with everyone else, rolling my eyes. 2 years later I watched it, and I had to say it wasn't bad. In fact, it was pretty passable as a Stephen King story. Its existence actually felt justified, as it had a darker tone, better performances, and made significant changes. It's funny how people would make fun of and laugh at how bad the first movie was, but as soon as a darker alternative was offered, they complained. You really can't please everyone. I know a sequel came out in 2023, but I haven't watched it yet. I have, however, seen the sequel to the original adaptation. Make of that what you will. This to me just felt like it was going to be another horror in the same vein as It and Stranger Things. Movies where we follow kids that talk and act like adults are to me just obnoxious to watch. This wasn't quite like that though. I'd never heard of the books before, so I was surprised that it was based off of source material that ushered many children of the time into horror. For me it was goosebumps, shivers and to some extent Roald Dahl. The various stories and creatures in the film were great and the main cast was likeable, so I was definitely wrong about this one. I know it was heavily criticised by fans of the books, especially given that they've replaced some of the practical effects with CGI, which is unfortunate, but it's easier for me to like given that I didn't read the books. Plus, it was produced by Guillermo del Toro and it was directed by Andre Overdahl, who gave us The Autopsy of Jane Doe and Troll Hunter. Now, before you get out your torches and pitchforks, hear me out. I've always said, and will continue to say, that this didn't need to be a Child's Play remake. Granted, comparisons would have been drawn regardless, and the name is the selling point, but I think it could have stood alone with the rogue AI approach. It had some good moments, and some eye-rolling ones, but it didn't feel like a waste of my time watching it. I'm just glad that the original Child's Play series is still going. When Mithrigan was released, she was obviously compared to Chucky, but the movie was hugely successful with the sequel coming this year, proving that audiences were open to the concept. I think he could have sold a not Child's Play movie based on Aubrey Plaza's popularity alone, but that's just me. I never really intended on watching these until I was scrolling through Netflix a couple of years ago looking for something new to watch. I just thought, why not, and went for it. I genuinely found them both funny, and since I had been slowly getting back into the zombie subgenre, I didn't find it generic or stale, so it gave me hope that not all of them were going to be boring. I have since watched more zombie movies, the ones that don't really get talked about all that much, and I've enjoyed a lot of them. My favourite being One Cut of the Dead. Absolutely great movie. This is one of the hyped movies that keeps appearing on lists. I wasn't really planning on watching this movie either, but since I love The Wicker Man, the original obviously, and the folk horror element, I decided to give it a go. I can honestly say that I thoroughly enjoyed the movie. Daytime horror does work, and European horror can be deeply unsettling, especially when you merge it with folk horror. Like It Follows, this is one of those movies that you can talk about for hours and discover something new on each rewatch. It's so well written and paced that the 2-hour plus runtime doesn't drag. As someone with a limited attention span, I appreciate this. I was finally in the mood to get around to this much loved classic. I didn't want to rush this one, I wanted to wait until I really wanted to watch it. It was one of my mum's favourites, so I really wanted to like it. I can truly understand why people love this movie so much. I never got bored, the effects 100% hold up today, and the performances were strong from every actor involved. I watched The Thing from Another World years ago, so I had a rough idea of the story, even though it kind of veered away slightly, but you can still see the similarities. This is a great addition to a winter horror watch list, although I would probably watch it anytime. I'm just so happy that I liked it. So those were 10 horror movies that surprised me. I'm more surprised at how many of these are from the last decade or so, particularly 2019. I clearly have little faith in modern horror, although I have found a lot of favourites from this time. I should remember that horror is still good these days and is getting smarter and more detailed. Unfortunately, they are lacking a lot of practical effects, which can be a big turn off for me, but there's nothing I can really do about that. It's just how Hollywood operates these days. Considering that from 2022 to now, horror has been pretty great, it's time for me to be more optimistic, I think. So those are just 10 horror movies that surprised me. Are there any horror movies that surprised you? Let me know in the comments. Be sure to like, share and subscribe the video if you enjoyed it. Obviously this is my first list for this channel. If you have any criticism in the comments, but nice, please. I'm very delicate, not really, but thank you so much for watching and I will see you next week.